most Sundays this month we're reading the Sermon on the Mount from St. Matthew's Gospel. The Sermon on the Mount is a summary of what Jesus taught during his ministry. It's a teaching that blesses our world and leads to the kingdom of God. In last week's Gospel, Jesus said he came not to abolish the law or the prophets, but to uphold the smallest letter or the smallest part of the letter of the law. Now, does that mean that Jesus was a legalist? Was he only interested in laws? No. He said that commandments are more important than laws. They're based on the two great commandments, love of God, love of neighbor. So love is more than living by laws. It has many applications. So, for example, he said the commandment, "You shall not kill." It means more than observing a law against murder. You can hurt somebody by the words you say, or by disrespect, or by hateful thoughts. So Jesus says that "you shall not kill" isn't limited to murder. Today's gospel seems to continue Jesus' reflection on the commandment, "You shall not kill." Jesus lived in a very violent society, remember. From top to bottom, his world believed in the principle, might makes right. The Roman Empire was built on that principle. Its armies were brutal machines that crushed anyone standing in their way. People like Herod, Rome's agent in Palestine in Jesus' day, believed in that principle. Look at the way he dealt with John the Baptist. That principle led to the way people were punished in Jesus' day. Look at how Jesus himself suffered and died under Pontius Pilate. So Jesus lived in a violent society that believed that might makes right. But violence creates more violence. That's why Jesus emphasizes forgiveness. They say an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. They say love your neighbor, hate your enemy. These are not good ways to live, Jesus says. Don't spend your life getting revenge, getting even with someone. Don't spend your life mad at people. Don't divide the world between those who you like and those whom you don't. Forgive. Be merciful. Years ago, in the early 1940s and 50s, my community, the Passionists, had missionaries in China. And when the communists came to power in 1950, they jailed most of those priests. One of them, Father Marcellus White, I remember very well. He spent 2 years in solitary confinement in a Chinese jail. Then he was released. I remember a newspaper picture of him in Hong Kong the day they let him out. He was a gaunt shell of a man then. He came back to the United States to recuperate, and about 6 months later, he set out for the Philippine Islands as a missionary again. And for about 20 years, until he died, he was one of my community's best and most active missionaries. I remember once he was home on a visit, and I was having breakfast with him, and I said to him, "Father Marcellus, can you tell me, how did you get back to the missions after what you went through in China? I saw your picture when you were expelled. You were half dead. How did you do it?" And this is what he said. He said, "Well, when I got out of jail, I could do two things. I could remember everything they did to me, and they did terrible things to me. Or I could go out and do something else. And I decided to go out and do something else. He was a man who forgave. He didn't become bitter or look for revenge. He decided to go and do something else. He still loved the Chinese people. And in fact, every opportunity he got, he went back to China and urged the people he left to forgive and to build a new relationship with those who persecuted them. Now that's the kind of forgiveness and mercy we need today. There's a hardness, a fearfulness that seems to be growing in our world today. Might makes right seems to be a principle that's guiding us more and more from top to bottom. The teachings of Jesus are still a light to guide us all. They're based on the law of love. They still lead to the kingdom of God.